Hello everyone! I came to the point of creating my own YouTube channel and this is my first video. I like talking about finance, investments, money and lifestyle, and I'm eager to share with you my thoughts on these topics as often as I can. Today I'm going to start with something hotly debated during last weeks: the de-dollarization. Some people get too overexcited, I guess. It looks as if they are waiting for something big to happen, even though it can be bad for themselves. Since the Second World War, the dollar has been the international reserve currency. Firstly, under the Bretton Woods Agreement of 1944, a kind of gold standard was set, making all the currencies around the world convertible into dollars, and in turn dollars convertible into gold at a pre-established exchange rate. Then, on the 15th of August 1971, all of a sudden, the US President Richard Nixon closed the so-called gold window, therefore breaching the agreements of Bretton Woods. Countries could not ask the US anymore to exchange their dollars into gold. The fact of the matter is that US printed too many dollars, and if everyone wanted to exchange them for gold, the treasury of the US would run out of gold very fast. And just like this, a new era of pure fiat money was ushered in. But wait a minute. If, from the date of 15th of August 1971, gold was not anymore backing the dollar, why did the dollar continue to be the international reserve currency par excellence? Quite simply, the US made sure that all the main commodities in the world had to be traded in US dollars, and the main one of them was oil. Indeed, at the time Secretary of State of the United States Henry Kissinger struck a deal in 1973 with Saudi Arabia so that the Saudis would sell their oil for dollars and not in any other currency. In exchange for that, the US would help the Saudis in many aspects, such as defense. The effect of this decision was that any country in the world was de facto forced to have dollars in order to be able to acquire oil, which is a completely essential commodity for the energy needs of any country. And the situation basically has remained like this until our days, till 2023. But what is going on now with the buzzword de-dollarization, which has become sort of flavor of the moment in the last weeks? Well, first of all, de-dollarization is a term used to describe the trend of countries moving away from using the US dollar as the dominant currency in international trade and financial transactions. This is indeed a trend that is happening, but not so fast. It doesn't mean that it will lead in the short term to the dethroning of the US dollar as the international reserve currency. This de-dollarization process has been driven by a number of factors, including concerns about the stability of the US economy and the global financial system, as well as geopolitical tensions between the US and other countries, especially nowadays. Overall, while de-dollarization is still a relatively new trend, it has the potential to reshape the global financial system and international trade in significant ways. While the pace and extent of de-dollarization is unknown, however, some people think that this process is accelerating. What's the reason for that? Well, we have seen recently a number of events that under normal circumstances would happen only with much more time in between. For instance, during a press briefing at the Davos Forum in January, Saudi Arabia's finance minister surprised journalists with the allegation that the oil-rich nation was willing to consider trading in currencies other than the US dollar for the first time in 48 years. Also, last week Chinese and French energy companies completed the first ever deal on liquefied natural gas in China using the renminbi yuan currency. The trade involved the import of LNG from the United Arab Emirates, which surely shows significant efforts of Beijing to challenge the US dollar's dominance as the universal petrodollar for gas and oil trade. Apart from that, Brazil has also recently announced a collaboration with China to trade directly in their own currencies, bypassing the US dollar as an intermediary. India is also making efforts to reduce the US dollar's supremacy in international trade by launching separate programs to settle transactions in their own currencies. So, this cascade of events that are taking place very fast undoubtedly indicates that the world is striving to move away from the dollar. It could be just a coincidence, or it could be the signal that something big is due to happen just in front of our eyes. However, no one can be certain of that. Well, while for sure the Americans don't like this tendency showed by the recent events of some countries moving away from the dollar, it doesn't mean that the dollar is not anymore the king. The famous investor Chamath Palihapitiya, for example, calls the fears for de-dollarization a nothing burger, as he thinks that the dollar will continue to be the international reserve currency. As many say, while it is true that the dollar has its troubles, the problem of ditching the dollar is that the alternatives are not any better. Not many countries will be willing to trade in yuans or in euros or in any other currency than the dollar. The currencies can be severely manipulated, and hence the countries don't trust each other, and this in turn leads to the virtual impossibility for the yuan or euro or Japanese yen or British pound or any other alternative means of exchange to become the new international reserve currency. One of the things that the international reserve currency must have to get the status is a solid, mature and very liquid bond market. In this, the US dollar is unmatched. So, in my understanding, the US dollar will continue to be the international reserve currency without any candidate to dethrone it. But sure, there can be some agreements here and there within some countries to execute trade between them with another currency, eroding some of the image of the dollar as overwhelming international currency, but without disputing its status. We saw that along the history there were several de facto international reserve currencies, one at a time. They have stood for a certain period of decades, and eventually they all were replaced by another one of the country which was becoming the new world power. For instance, as you can see in the graph, Spanish, British and French currencies were dominant for more than 100 years, Dutch and Portuguese a bit less. American currency has been dominant since 1925 up to now, and it seems that the dollar has already had its run. And it's time for it to give way to another currency for international trade. But you know, these are just precedents, and the US dollar may last way longer. As a conclusion, I think that the de-dollarization process is indeed a thing. It is likely to be happening, but at the same time we cannot consider that this is an imminent outcome. This process should take long still, as there is no real and serious alternative to US dollar. Yes, there is gold to act as a backing. Indeed, gold is widespread internationally and thus it can act as a cornerstone for international trading. But the dollar markets are way more developed and cannot be replaced by gold so easily. You know, as they say, in economics things happen slowly and then all of a sudden. We'll see. So that's all for today. I hope you liked this video. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.